Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about the Otherside conflict narrative assignment. All right, so before you would have seen the lecture on the conflict narrative assignment, and it's about telling a story that you had a conflict with somebody else, and you're telling it from your point of view. That is not the actual assignment. The actual assignment is you're going to tell that story from the other person's perspective. All right, and the reason I want you to do this is because perspective taking is a really important part of academia. It's not just in your English classes. It's not even just for narrative, right? You'll be using this in history classes when you are writing your primary source analysis. And it's important for you to be able to think about the primary source, what time was it written in, what are sort of the values and the mores of the time. And you got to sort of imagine that other perspective. So it's part of that class. If you're taking a psychology class or a sociology class, again, the writing is going to ask you to write about like a different subgroup and what are their values and mores, and you have to be able to put yourself sort of there. So this strategy is designed not just for this class but for other classes, and I want to give you some practice in perspective taking. So you're telling the same story that you wrote about last week, but it's from the other person's point of view. You're still using the same conflict. You're exploring what it's like to be on the other side of the conflict. So what the stresses or worries were, what the other person was thinking, how the person's history with you comes into conflict, right? All those things. You can choose to write it in first person, so as if you were the other person, right? Or you can write it in the third person and give yourself a little bit of distance. Either one of those is fine. Right, you still have to have narrative elements, plot, setting, characterization, and Stephen King talks about that extensively. It's part of why I set up the reading the way it was, so that you could have that reading and his strategies for how to do this right up against starting this paper. You're telling a story with a conflict, with a climax, a resolution. It should always be in chronological order. Do not give me postmodern writing. Right? First X, then Y, then Z. Right? You want to entertain, but, you want to make the reader be, involved. Setting is important, right? So even if it's a really mundane setting, include some of that. We should have a sense of sort of the ambiance. And my examples that I give you, I will absolutely 100% concur that my setting is not as good as it could be. If I were writing another draft of this, I would definitely do more with the setting pieces. The reader should have a sense of the people involved, so you do have to have dialogue. You got to have actions, thoughts. Those things are required. I do want you to have dialogue. All right, and then you have these general education goals, what you're going to be able to do. So remember, the story should take place in less than a day. All right, should be told in chronological order with transitions. Should be descriptive of setting and character, so I should be able to see you through somebody else's eyes. Right? So concrete verbs, specific nouns. We're going to learn about that a little bit more tomorrow. The paper should be 3 to 5 pages typed in MLA format. All right, so those are the guidelines that I'm looking for from you. In terms of grading, again, remember the advanced is your extra credit opportunity. Your proficient is your 100 out of 100. So the story should have a beginning, middle, and end. Uses time markers, rising tension, climax, resolution, narrative takes place within 24 hours. It has to meet all of those things to get the full points. All right, the descriptive language. So it should be descriptive of setting, character, time, all those things. Concrete sensory details, adjectives, adverbs, create a setting, show characterization through word choice. All right, again, all that work that you did with the description essay, you can use those same skills, pull them into this assignment. Right? Don't be afraid to use those skills to bring those into this assignment. There's a reason I sequenced the way I did. Right? So grammar, usage, mechanics, punctuation, you'll notice that this is tightened up significantly from the last paper. That's because by the time you get to the final draft of this one, you're going to be so good at editing. Right? I hope. And MLA format. Does this say anything about, am I writing something appropriate for school? No. Does this say anything about it has to be written in a way that Alex likes? No, I want it to be a story, right? But your word choice, your topic, that's completely up to you, right? As long as it's a conflict between two people and you're telling it not from your point of view. Okay? So, I've given you an example, right? It's the example of the same story I told you last time, except from the other person's point of view, and I'll let you read through that. And that's pretty much it. There's Writing Lab 3 and 6 that are attached to this, but by this point, you should be pretty comfortable with, visiting the Writing Lab. Let me know what questions you have. I do want you to be successful in this. I know you can do it. Let me know what questions so that I can help guide you to where you need to go. And I'm always happy to look at early drafts. Thanks. Bye.